My name is Kendra. I'm 28, a CEO running a logistics company in suburban Chicago. But until 2 months ago, I was just a fool, with a freckled face and a heart desperate for genuine affection. I was standing in the grand ballroom of the family estate, a house that ironically was entirely mine on my birthday, waiting for my brother Austin to finish his toast. He raised his glass, but his eyes weren't on me. They were fixed on my boyfriend Sean and my mother Marilyn, who stood unnervingly close together. Austin's voice boomed. Kendra is busy with balance sheets, but Sean needs passion. Mom and Sean have found a unique connection that truly deserves to be celebrated. My mother? Marilyn smiled, her face tight from the recent cosmetic procedures. Her predatory eyes gleamed with triumph. Sean, my boyfriend of 4 months, then stepped forward. Instead of offering a polite handshake, he took Marilyn's hand, lifted it dramatically to his lips, and kissed it, holding her gaze with an intimacy that hit me like a physical blow. The room went silent, all eyes pivoting to me. Austin leaned closer to me, his breath reeking of expensive bourbon, and sneered the words I'd never forget. "You're truly a fool in this relationship. Now leave." I clenched my jaw, my knuckles white around the grip of the small recording device hidden in my hand, and forced myself not to scream. I chose to laugh instead. To understand why I laughed and how I turned their humiliation into their financial ruin, you need the full story starting 2 months ago with the history of my family. The logistics business was built by my father, a self-made man of action. His weakness was indulging my mother Marilyn and my older brother Austin in every frivolous whim. Dad passed away 2 years ago, leaving behind a carefully structured will designed to protect his life's work from Austin's recklessness. His will was clear. I, Kendra, was to run the business and control the primary trust because I had the competence and discipline. Austin and Marilyn, meanwhile, were set up with a generous monthly trust fund allowance and the right to reside in the family estate, which I technically owned. This fueled Austin's immediate fiery resentment. He felt his status as the male heir entitled him to ownership and power, not a restrictive stipend. He viewed the trust fund as an insult, and his bitterness was profound and dangerous. This hostility set the stage for Sean. My relationship with Sean, a professional fitness trainer, started quickly. He was conventionally handsome, smooth, and seemed genuinely interested in my life, overlooking my quiet nature and the freckled face that had always been a source of insecurity. I was easy to fool, eager to believe in a romance. I made the mistake of bringing Sean to the estate on our first date. Marilyn, despite being 52, kept herself incredibly fit and appeared in a revealing, fashionable outfit exuding a confidence that bordered on predatory. She immediately sized Sean up not as my date, but as a prize to boost her own flagging ego. Sean, ever the opportunist, met her gaze with a mutual sickening understanding. He saw the wealth, the vanity, and the easy target. Marilyn and Sean quickly exchanged numbers under the guise of discussing advanced personal training routines, laughing over a shared anecdote about expensive health gadgets. Only Austin knew the full scope of their immediate inappropriate connection, and he not only kept silent but actively fostered it. Austin saw the spark between them as a powerful, destabilizing weapon against me, knowing that Marilyn's obsession with young, attractive men had dangerously escalated since Dad's passing. He calculated how to use their mutual selfish attraction to destabilize me emotionally and professionally, clearing the path to benefit his own financial position, hoping to leverage my resulting breakdown into control of the company. I noticed nothing truly definitive out of the ordinary, attributing their secretive smiles to polite, harmless flirtation. I was fixated on how kind Sean was to me, completely missing how eagerly he sought private conversation with my mother. Sean began subtly dropping hints about how stressed his job was, hinting at financial strain, and I, being the financially dominant partner, eager to please, immediately increased the spending limit on the joint credit card to ease his supposed burden. The foundation of this betrayal was rooted equally in financial greed and emotional narcissism, and it was blossoming dangerously under my own unsuspecting roof. Only a couple of weeks after Sean's introduction, the first cracks became undeniable, though I diligently plastered them over with blind faith, refusing to engage with the possibility of being a fool. Sean started canceling our dinner dates with increasing frequency, claiming sudden mandatory training sessions with high-profile clients who required absolute discretion and late-night availability. He used increasingly elaborate excuses like urgent training seminars or mandatory press commitments. His phone was constantly buzzing with messages and calls from unsaved numbers. When I innocently asked about the urgency, he'd kiss my cheek, look me sincerely in the eye, and say, "Baby, you know how demanding my job is catering to the elite. Don't worry about it, it's just work keeping us apart." I desperately believed him. My mother, Marilyn, meanwhile, ramped up her superficial spending to an almost frantic degree. She was buying expensive couture jewelry I'd never seen and booking advanced cosmetic treatments with suspicious haste. She looked exactly like a woman trying desperately, painfully to compete with someone decades younger. I started reviewing the statements from the secondary credit card I provided for her household use, huge, inexplicable sums spent on bespoke tailored shirts, high-end Italian silk ties, and exclusive cologne that certainly weren't suitable for Austin's casual style. There were also suspiciously large transactions from luxury travel agencies. When I finally brought up the suspicious spending, Marilyn immediately went on the defensive, snapping that I was being petty and claiming she was simply investing in her image to represent the family better in society. Austin immediately jumped in, launching his usual attacks, but I misinterpreted his intent entirely. "Mom and Sean are just on the same level, Kendra. You're too focused on work. They're focused on living. You're too boring for him. Stuck in your spreadsheets?" He'd sneer, deliberately hitting my deepest, most vulnerable insecurities about my appearance and my lack of spontaneity. I reasoned that Austin was just trying to provoke me because he resented my control, not because he was running calculated interference for my boyfriend and my mother. I started spending more money on Sean, trying to prove Austin wrong and make myself exciting enough. One afternoon, I discovered an itemized bill for a lavish Italian dinner for two at a downtown spot Sean had specifically claimed was too exclusive and expensive for us right now. I convinced myself it must have been Austin and Marilyn, though Austin hates Italian food. The rationalization was sickening, but easier than accepting the brutal truth of double betrayal. Sean and Marilyn became practically inseparable under my roof, engaging in long, hushed private chats in the garden or by the pool. I found myself walking in on abrupt, awkward silences whenever I entered a room they were in, often seeing them quickly separating or extinguishing a secretive smile. Austin would often joke loudly about how Mom's new hobby was spending time with Sean, and I would simply dismiss it as his usual cruel wit designed to irritate me. I decided to take a weekend trip to an industry conference I didn't actually need to attend, just to give myself space. I told them I'd be gone for 3 days, but I returned secretly after only one night, desperate for undeniable answers. As I walked past the darkened pool, I found an expensive custom men's swimming trunk, clearly not Austin's style, draped carelessly over a chair. It was the exact high-end brand Sean had been admiring online just days before, and the sight of it in my house hit me with the cold, unmistakable certainty of truth. I didn't confront anyone about the discarded swimming trunks. I was too terrified of what I might confirm, or worse, what Marilyn and Austin would instantly conjure to further twist the knife of doubt and shame in my mind. The discovery left a hollow, sickening pit in my stomach, turning my grief into a paralyzing fear of confrontation. Instead, I went straight to my corporate office the next morning, feeling physically sick and emotionally empty. That afternoon, a small, completely nondescript package arrived on my desk via a discreet courier service, addressed simply and anonymously to Kendra. Inside, there was no note, just a standard issue USB drive and a thick stack of printed materials. The contents were sickeningly methodical dozens of high-resolution screenshots of text messages, receipts, and candid photographs. The materials proved Sean was not just an ordinary cheater, but the head of a systematic professional scam operation. The photos showed him intimately with at least 7 other women over the last year, all clearly wealthy targets. But the most damning, most gut-wrenching evidence involved my own family. There were explicit, deeply vulgar messages between Sean and Marilyn discussing me in the most derogatory terms, consistently referring to me as the freckled ATM and mocking my dedicated work ethic. The folder also contained a long, strategic series of messages between Sean and Austin discussing how to emotionally and professionally dismantle me to coax me into transferring more liquid assets into a joint account they could easily siphon from specifically planning their public moves around my upcoming birthday party. That package was my immediate, painful wake-up call, the harsh dose of brutal reality I needed to shatter my denial. The initial blinding pain of romantic betrayal was quickly overshadowed by a clear, powerful fury at being systematically targeted for my money, my position, and my emotional vulnerability. I immediately tracked down the source of the anonymous package, which led me to a furious, sharp-witted woman named Stella, a previous target of Sean's. When we met at a neutral coffee shop, Stella confirmed everything. He's a professional predator, Kendra, and a successful one because he preys on kind people. I sent you that package because he needs to be taken down legally permanently, and you have the unique power to do it. Stella's testimony transformed my remaining emotional grief into a clear, sharp corporate focus. I returned to the estate that evening, immediately called up the home security camera system, and spent hours reviewing the high-definition footage. The visuals confirmed every sickening detail in the texts. Sean and Marilyn were not only inseparable, but I watched Austin openly encouraging their trysts, laughing cruelly. The anguish was gone, replaced entirely by a deep, powerful sense of righteous, cold anger. I didn't waste another second on tears or confrontation. I called my trusted corporate lawyer, Vance. Vance, I said, my voice steady, devoid of emotion. I need you to pull up the trust morality clause and the eviction protocol immediately. I want everything finalized and executed precisely on the night of my birthday. I want them to have their final glorious moment of triumph and betrayal, and then immediately afterward, I want them to lose everything legally and irrevocably. From that moment on, the vulnerable, naive Kendra who sought love was dead. All that remained was Kendra, the CEO of the logistics company, calculating every move with cold corporate precision. I spent the next 2 weeks operating as CEO Kendra, maintaining a flawless facade for the conspirators. Sean and Marilyn, completely oblivious to my discovery, and the impending legal tsunami continued their brazen charade. Sean intensified his displays of affection for me in public, performing the devoted boyfriend role perfectly, continually trying to coax more money, while Marilyn became even more insufferably smug and condescending in my presence. I continued to act the role of the devoted, easily manipulated girlfriend, occasionally increasing Sean's minor spending limit to feed his superficial greed and confirm their hubris. I made sure to leak key dates and information to Austin, knowing he would use them in their plotting, thereby providing further evidence of their active conspiracy. Meanwhile, Austin, feeling supremely confident that my emotional state was fragile, insisted on throwing me a lavish, over-the-top birthday party at the family estate. He claimed it was to celebrate my resilience, but I knew the truth. It was their painstakingly planned venue for my public emotional humiliation. I accepted their plan willingly, even helping with the guest list to ensure all the right business associates and trust members would attend. I met with Vance daily. The legal preparation was meticulous and watertight. We finalized the writ of ejectment for the estate and the trust fund termination document citing the clear, documented violation of the morality clause. Vance also coordinated with the main operating bank to ensure all joint accounts and secondary lines of credit would be instantly frozen and severed the moment the legal documents were officially filed during the party. I was removing their entire non-negotiable financial foundation, ensuring every last loophole was sealed. I also recruited my father's younger brother, my Uncle Ray, the only family member who had always been straight with me. I showed him the evidence and the legal documents. He was furious, but he agreed immediately to attend the party as my personal silent witness, providing me with invaluable moral support. For physical security, I hired 5 impeccably trained guards from my company's internal security team, instructed them to wear standard suits and blend in as private event staff, and assigned them specific tactical posts for the night of the party. They were under strict orders not to intervene unless I gave the predetermined signal. The night before my birthday, I packed a small black clutch containing the functional recording device, the final signed eviction papers, and the damning USB drive. Austin and Marilyn were running around the estate that evening, excited about their impending triumph. They were so focused on the dramatic execution of their miserable plan that they failed completely to notice the cold, silent efficiency with which I was planning their sudden, brutal, and permanent fall. The night of the party arrived, transforming the family estate into a packed, tense, high-stakes venue. The ballroom was overflowing with high society guests and key business associates, all invited by Austin and Marilyn to ensure the maximum possible audience for my expected public breakdown. Marilyn was wearing an extravagant, attention-grabbing white silk gown, looking less like the mother of the birthday host, and more like she was celebrating her own engagement, while I chose a modest, tailored red dress that conveyed professional authority. I felt the pitying glances of the guests as Sean spent the entire first hour glued to my mother's side, performing the role of her personal escort. At exactly 8 o'clock, Austin took the microphone, clinking a large crystal glass to silence the room. My heart was pounding a steady, cold rhythm against my ribs, but my face remained an impassive mask. He didn't waste time pretending to celebrate me for my professional achievements. He launched straight into a cruel, calculated speech about love life and true connection. He began by speaking about the stress of leadership and how the burdens of business had supposedly made me emotionally unavailable, a cold machine, incapable of providing the warmth Sean deserved. He then pivoted focus entirely to Marilyn, praising her eternal youth and her unconditional affection. He declared, his voice rising in dramatic triumph, that my mother had found the spark of passion I couldn't possibly provide. He concluded his despicable performance with a loud theatrical toast to the 2 people who are truly meant to be together, who found love where they least expected it under this very roof, Marilyn and Sean. The crowd was stunned into uncomfortable, confused silence. Sean seized the moment perfectly. He walked confidently over to Marilyn, bypassing me entirely. He took her face in his hands, looked deeply into her eyes, and then slowly, deliberately, he kissed her full on the lips. It wasn't a quick peck. It was a long, intimate, possessive kiss, designed to leave no doubt as to their relationship. The scandalous moment hung heavily in the air, captured instantly by dozens of cell phones held aloft by shocked guests. It was the absolute perfect climax of their pathetic conspiracy, and they expected me to gasp, cry, run from the room, or faint in humiliation. Austin then delivered his final hateful line to ensure the devastation was complete. He leaned in close to me, his breath reeking of expensive bourbon, his voice low and venomous. "You're truly a fool in this relationship, Kendra. A pathetic fool who deserves to be lonely. Now leave." I looked at him, at his self-satisfied, utterly cruel smirk, and I realized his motive was deeper than just money. He genuinely hated me, his sister. Sean and Marilyn, basking in the spotlight, momentarily turned their backs on me, waiting for my reaction, the expected breakdown. My Uncle Ray was the only person who met my gaze, a silent, powerful nod of unwavering support passing between us. I took a deep, steadying breath. My body was shaking slightly, not from sorrow or fear, but from the immense cold power I was about to unleash upon them all. When they expected tears, I gave them a laugh. It was a sharp, clear sound that cut through the silence like broken glass, silencing the murmurs of the crowd instantly. I walked over to the microphone and surveyed the room. My voice was sharp, clear, and steady. Thank you, Austin and Sean, for that truly theatrical performance I began. It's time for my counter gift, the gift of truth, delivered with corporate efficiency. I walked swiftly over to the multimedia station and plugged in the USB drive. The huge projection screen immediately flashed up a detailed series of text conversations, financial records, and compromising photos. The evidence was presented with corporate clarity, showing key quotes and transaction numbers. First, the material from Stella's package, irrefutable proof of Sean's professional scheme. Key quotes like, "The freckled ATM" flashed across the screen for all to see. The crowd gasped, a wave of shock and murmurs rolling through the ballroom. The entire room instantly buzzed, the guests' collective mindset shifting abruptly from judging me to judging the shocking moral collapse of my brother, my mother, and my boyfriend. I then turned my attention directly to my family. Sean is not your soulmate, Mom. He is a well-organized systemic fraud who strategically targeted you for your perceived wealth and access, not your affection. Marilyn shrieked an animal sound of panic and denial and tried to rush me at the podium. The disguised security guards instantly moved, blocking her path. She spun back to me, her face contorted in a desperate last-ditch plea. Kendra, you have to believe me. It was all Sean. He tricked me. I'm a victim too. I am your mother. I pulled my arm away sharply, my touch repulsed. Mom, you are the best actress in this house, but the performance is irrevocably over. I have the security camera footage. You conspired with my brother to hurt me, your daughter to steal my business and my home. I let you play your hand out fully because I needed irrefutable evidence for what comes next. I then gave the definitive signal to Vance. He stepped forward, holding a stack of signed, sealed legal papers. Now for the financial reality. You three conspired to steal, I announced. I displayed the relevant legal documents on the screen. Vance formally read a short excerpt citing Clause 4B, moral turpitude and hostile action against trust fiduciary, stating all financial and residential rights were revoked. This house, which you all thought was the grand prize, is solely owned by my trust personally. The trust fund is terminated permanently. Austin, every one of your extensive personal debts is defaulted directly to my company. Sean, the car you drove here, the watch you are wearing, the clothes on your back, all were purchased with my money. Consider them legally returned to my trust, and you are now subject to immediate prosecution for fraud. Austin roared in rage, attempting to lunge violently. Sean stood frozen, realizing his golden goose was a ruthless executioner. I didn't linger to watch the full degrading fallout. I simply gave the final cold order to the security detail: eject them. All three. Now. The guards moved swiftly. Austin, still screaming curses and thrashing, was escorted toward the front door. Sean, utterly defeated, offered no resistance as he was stripped of his car keys and his expensive watch right there in the main drive. Marilyn, finally comprehending the immense gravity of the legal documents and the loss of her entire financial life, collapsed into a heap of hysterical weeping, begging for just one more chance. I stood by the door watching the trio being physically escorted out of the grand home I had tried to share with them. My Uncle Ray walked over, placing a supportive, heavy hand on my shoulder, his respect evident. I walked back inside, away from the chaos, and shut the huge, solid door on my old life. There was no contemplation of reconciliation, no possibility of forgiveness. The bridge had been burned. That very night, I called Vance and the bank executives to confirm every utility line of credit and bank account linked to their names was instantly and permanently severed. I had created a clean surgical break. 1 month later, the cold reality of my action had settled into their lives. Sean, now blocked on all corporate platforms and thoroughly exposed by the public evidence, was blacklisted from every major luxury gym. He was entirely broke and utterly irrelevant, scraping by with cash jobs. Austin, completely cut off from all family money, was forced to take a humiliating minimum wage job, stocking shelves at a local warehouse, his arrogant, entitled demeanor melting away in the harsh light of physical labor and utility bills. Marilyn, unable to afford the constant cosmetic maintenance and the extravagant lifestyle that defined her existence, aged rapidly, her excessive vanity stripped bare by poverty. They were forced to rent a cheap, dilapidated apartment and predictably spent all their time bitterly blaming and attacking each other for their collective, self-inflicted ruin. I sat in my spacious corner office sipping coffee and reviewing the quarterly earnings report. The freckles were still there, but the crushing emotional naivete was gone, replaced by steel. I had saved my company and my future. I finally understood that true strength wasn't about suppressing my flaws. It was about accepting them and using my intelligence and competence to ruthlessly protect myself. The inherent value a woman holds is fundamentally not measured by her appearance, her wealth, or by the quality of the man she manages to keep. It is measured entirely by her self-respect, her professional competency, and her ruthless ability to clearly draw and enforce non-negotiable boundaries. I had lost the dysfunctional family I thought I needed, but I gained the respect and profound peace of mind I truly deserved.